Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms. These are Charter Moms Chats, and we go live in the afternoons to share what families need to know to help their kids get a great education here in San Antonio. And it's been a challenging year and a half, and we're getting ready for another kind of back to school season. And around this time last year, we talked to a handful of schools who we thought had innovative approaches to getting kids learning and getting back on campus during the pandemic. And we want to revisit some of those schools and kind of capture what's happening in this moment. And so today we're talking to Anne Frank Inspire Academy. One thing that's new this year is that they have not one campus, but two campuses. So we have leaders from both campuses here today. So we have Justin Johnston, and he's a veteran of Charter Moms Chats. He is the head of schools with an S, for Inspire Academy. Welcome back, Justin.
Thanks, Inga. I appreciate you having us again.
And Ruben Carrillo is the head of school at the new campus. It's Anne Frank Inspire Academy Northwest Military Campus, and it's located on the Jewish Community Center location on the north side, which is a beautiful facility. I can hardly wait to come visit now that it's an Anne Frank school. So they're going to be talking about back to school, and also Ruben's going to talk about the new campus as well. So thank you so much, guys, for helping us talk about back to school.
Yeah, of course. We appreciate you having us.
So, Justin, I want to mention, so Justin wrote a guest post that's new on the blog today, and I want to encourage everybody, there's a link to it in the description of the video. So I hope you watch this video, but also go and click on the link and read the blog post, because I thought it was very timely and a really important reflection on this moment we're in, right? We're like a year and a half into this pandemic thing, and there's still so much uncertainty about what to do. And so it's like Justin's kind of commenting on like, how do we make sense of this, right? Because like if you're part of the Charter Moms community with your mom, dad, granddad, like you're exercising school choice, but there's more to it than that. There's also an element of parent voice, right? Parents are exercising choice, but there also needs to be this dialogue. So Justin, I was wondering if you could comment more on that. Like, what was the message you were trying to get across in the guest post? And what do you want parents and schools to have on their minds as we navigate this?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that there's a collective whole, right? Like there's all of us that are in this together. And so I think a lot of times we start focusing about how do we get kids to attend Anne Frank, Bandera, or Northwest Military. And that's not what our goal is. Our goal is the turnaround and to empower families to be able to make choices that is what's in the best interest of their student and the education that lies in it. And each one of us that have chosen to go down this path of school choice is there to represent a different way to educate kids. And so there's not a right or wrong. There is just the ability to provide choices for families. Inside of choice, and the reason that we use the word choice is because parents want to have a voice, right? And a lot of times when you start looking at a public government set educational system, you lose that voice. And the movement came about basically because people said, I want to have more of a voice in what's going on inside of my child's education. So what our post was about this week, and we appreciate you letting us write it, is just how do we go about maintaining that voice inside of our parents? And then what does real communication look like? And, we try to capture that, yes, we want for families to hear us, but we also want to hear from them. We talk about ways in which we go about doing that strategically. And then the fact that real communication is messy. And the fact of the matter is that sometimes people are trying to communicate with me, and we've got 55 teachers here or facilitators here this week that we're trying to get trained, ready to go. And yeah, you want to know when open house is going to be, but we're also trying to get them ready so that when kids walk back in the door. And so sometimes we may drop the ball on some communication, but guess what? My wife tells me that I drop some balls on communication at the house as well, right? And so inside of real relationship, there comes some tension, there comes some communication barriers, but ultimately at the end of the day, when we stay focused on our goal of what we're trying to do, there becomes a majority of solutions. So are you as a family really engaging in communication for solutions, or are you just there to gather information from the school that they want to send out? And then ultimately, does the school have the courage to really hear you? And that's one of the things that we really want to do is we want to hear from our families, but yet we don't want to lose our mission and vision. And so if a parent is contacting me and voicing legitimate concerns, we're going to honor those concerns. We're going to hear those concerns. But if a school is looking for us to do more homework or do more worksheets or to do more direct teaching to students, that's outside of what our vision is. And our vision here at Anne Frank is for students to come, belong, find joy, and be great. We do that through an inquiry process where we teach students to think for themselves and learn how to master self mastery through self management, right? And so, if that's what your family is looking for, we're the right spot. If it's not what you're looking for, then we believe you have the right to choose someplace else. But we encourage you to make sure that when you make that choice, you don't give up your voice in that process.
Yeah. The sort of, I'm going to plug the discussion group on Facebook, this SA Charter Moms discussion group on Facebook. It's because like what San Antonio Charter Moms does, like our role in this process is to help parents understand what to expect from different schools, because part of the joy of what I do, as the leader of this nonprofit organization, is I get to learn about all the different school models that are out there, and it's so much broader than just what neighborhood public schools 20 years ago were offering. So there's but it sometimes parents aren't aware of like how different a charter school could be than what they grew up with. Then it can create some surprise or shock, and then they can say, well, they can come to the school and say, well, why aren't you doing it this way? And that's where like you said, communication is messy. And then as a school, you always have to be asking yourself, like, okay, can I accommodate this parent, or is it important for us to stay true to our mission, vision, values, and what the school is set out to be? Because that's important to stay true to that, because that's what creates this diversity of different school models that are out there.
Yeah, and I think that when you go back, the biggest difference from us is that we want to give parents real information on where kids are in their learning process. And so one of the biggest changes or challenges for parents when they join our family is that we give traditional grades because we're required to by law to give traditional grades. So we give traditional grades, but we really want to communicate with families about what kids know, what kids can do, and then what kids are becoming, right? And so those are where we provide more standards-based feedback of um, direct written feedback into where kids are inside of that process. And we do that K-12. It's very common for that process in kinder and first grade. And then as students get older, we drift away from that. And what we want to go back and do is ultimately just say, hey, what do kids know? What can kids do? And then what are kids becoming? And then as a parent, that should be the same questions you're asking and you want us to answer.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Justin, I know that, like, I guess like a part of when I kind of set up this project of like, hey, can you write, this guest post for us about what you're doing for back to school? Partly it's like, it's within this context of so much uncertainty from the state, and, and right, there's certain things that are dictated by the governor and certain things you're kind of waiting to hear from the commissioner. And, you know, we were just talking about this off the air, like there's still a lot of uncertainty. So I guess, I don't know, can you kind of share like what we know, what we don't know? But I'm prefacing this saying that there's a lot that we don't know. And there's some things that schools just don't have flexibility on. And I think in the context of that, like the post you've written is so important, because really like communicating and understanding and having this dialogue between parents and school is really the only way we can move forward. It's the only way we can have some kind of comfort level and trust about, doing what's best for our kids. But so what do we know? That being said, what do we know?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think we have a lot of certainty from the standpoint of, I mean, from everything that he's saying, from everything that is coming out, the governor's not going to blink on whether or not schools have a choice to require kids to wear a mask or not to wear a mask, right? That it's going to be a personal choice. And again, we love choice, right? But the choice has been taken away from schools, and we don't know what we would have chosen to do because we never had to have that conversation of where we are. But what we know is that is made by right now the only person that can make that decision, which is the governor. We also know that the commissioner has told us that he does not have the ability to create funding for virtual learning. And since it did not go through during the legislative session and it was not part of the special session, there is no option coming down the pipe that's going to allow for remote learning, right? And so we're hoping that things may change, but there's a difference between hoping and then also planning for what we have, right? So right now we're planning as if we're going to be a Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock to 3:30 school, and that everybody's going to be here in person. Are we still exploring some ideas out there of other ways that we may be able to meet families' needs and things along those lines? We are. But to be honest with you, every time we feel like we have a good answer, those options are taken away as well. So, and one of those options would be just creating a remote learning room, right? Well, you can't do that unless you have enough staff to be able to put somebody in front of the kids for a certain number of hours out of the day, right? Well, then how do you logistically manage that? Who's going to show up for that? So all of those different things. Now, one of the things that we try to do, sticking with that communication part, is we try to communicate information without placing blame. The governor has a reason that he's making the decisions, and he knows more information than I do, and I have to trust our elected officials, right? And the only time that changes is during elections time, and I'm not in that right now, so it is what it is, right? I have to trust the commissioner that he's doing in the best interest of everything that he possibly can do, and so we don't blame them for the decisions that are being made. We don't know if the decisions are right or wrong. We just operate underneath a system that allows us to make those choices, right? So we're going to create the best place that we possibly can for kids to belong, find joy, and be great.
Yeah. And it's a matter of like you said, there's certain things that are not likely to change between now and the start of the school year, so we're going to work with those, and like what you talked about in the post, that communicating that to parents and listening to parents' concerns, that's really the only way to handle this going forward.
Yeah, because guess what? I could be talking right now, and he could have just put out an executive order that said everybody's got to wear a mask, and I don't know. And that goes back to that uncertainty part of it. I don't know when decisions are going to be changed. I just know what they've told me today and what they've asked us to prepare for.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to send the next question over to Ruben. Let him get a chance to speak. So one of the things that was in the post, and it's part of the culture of Anne Frank, is like creating this two-way relationship with families. And so I was wondering if you could talk about, how that works, and if you have any examples of like interactions with families.
Yeah. So very fortunate, and I've been very lucky to meet, all our families that are currently going through our enrollment process. Initially they reach out with an inquiry, and then we touch base with them, right? Because we want them to come into our campus. We want them to look and feel and touch and really get a sense of what it's like in our classrooms. Anne Frank really big on that two-way relationship with our parents. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that struck me when I jumped on board with Anne Frank Inspire Academy is just that importance, right? Where we're putting that on our list of priorities, right? That connection with family, that connection with home, and that real honest conversations with parents. If you've listened to Justin in the past, and if you know Justin for a while now, and what I've gotten to see here is that we're just being honest, right? Honest answers to questions that are really important to family members. So we give them the information that we have, and then we make them feel comfortable and understand that we're going to be here for them, right? We're going to do our best for their kiddos. We're going to do what's best for them every single day. We're going to make sure that their kids are safe and learning safely in the classroom, and having fun, right? Finding joy in everyday learning. And absolutely, I mean, in those connections and in those conversations with our parents, our folks have shared a lot of information and a lot of stories about maybe their past experiences in traditional ISDs. Gotten a lot of really interesting questions about what's allowed, what's not allowed. Is my child going to be in trouble for asking too many questions? Which kind of blew my mind. Initially meeting with a couple of those first sets of parents, right? And that was one of the first questions. In the past, my child has gotten in trouble for speaking up too much, asking too many questions, being too social, right? We've all heard them. And I take great pride, right, in answering that wholeheartedly and honestly. No, they're not. They're going to be encouraged to do that. They're going to be encouraged to collaborate with their peers. They're going to be encouraged to ask questions. They're probably going to get in your car when you pick them up and ask you 1,000 more, right? And that's really what we want. We want inquisitive minds, and we want to feed that, and we want to foster that. Another parent asked, "Hey, my child was, got in trouble last year for writing on his desk. Okay, he was doodling on his desk, and he was actually focused on the work, right? He was figuring some stuff out on the desk." So the great thing about our school and the great thing about our approach and our pedagogy is that we'll allow things to happen like that, right? We'll allow for moments to come about in a learning environment, and we'll let kids go with it, right? And they're encouraged to write on dry erase tabletops, and they're encouraged to travel over to the other side of the room to collaborate with peers, because that was the interest in that group. And maybe your child's interests changed, and now he feels like maybe that's the best approach, and that's where he's going to get the most out of the activity. We want to allow for those things to happen. They happen naturally, they happen inherently, they happen beautifully, right? Because that's what learning's about. Some of the conversations that I have with them is like, we want kids to make mistakes. We feel like when they make mistakes, that's when the learning happens. That's when the magic happens. That's when we all learn, right? We all learn from our mistakes and we grow from them. It's that type of conversation that sometimes will take parents by surprise, right? But it really speaks volumes to our approach and what we're expecting to see in our classrooms, and what our facilitators are there to facilitate, right? The magic of facilitation, right? And to step away from direct teach, to step away from telling kids what they should learn and in what order they should learn it. They more take an approach of exploration and really allow kids to really get in there and get dirty with their learning. So I feel like it's been received really well. Our parents are looking for a particular type of approach. And like Justin said, I mean, if this is what you feel as a parent is the best scenario and the best setting for your child, I mean, this is absolutely the place to come and learn every day. Another thing to keep in mind is our classroom sizes, right? Our student to teacher ratio is nice and low. So that communication with parents is going to be more readily available, more easy to access. And then our open doors as well. Like from an administrative standpoint, I mean, we're an email away, a phone call away. Like Justin says, sometimes the daily grind kind of bogs us down with the daily operations of our school. Whether it's 50 kids, 100 kids, 200 or 1,000, running a school is running a school, right? And with that comes a lot of different things. But we're still a phone call away, an email away, and a reach out away, right? And that's the approach that we'll take. We'll have honest conversations with our parents, and we'll be available for them.
Yeah. So Inga, I hope you don't mind real quick, but Dr. Carrillo was talking to me the other day, and he told me, he was like, "Hey, I just came to a realization that, we're opening this school, K2, right? And so realistically, we have students, like every one of our students will have never been on a campus for a full year."
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right. And so there's things that we're going to have to cover that have been covered that don't have anything to do with learning, but we're going to have second graders walk onto our campus, and that's really where, when you go back and you look at, we're starting K2 this year for a purpose, for an intentionality behind it, of making sure that we really do put the product out there and we take care of our students. And so if you're looking for a school right now, our Northwest Military Campus is a perfect place for your kid to start, because none of our students there are going to have been there on a full campus for an entire year. And we're prepared. We recognize that, and we're prepared to answer that need. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, let's just kind of continue with that theme. Like, I mean, things have been so strange, and I guess there's going to be there's kids who maybe haven't been on campus either at the Bandera campus for a while. So let me ask both of y'all, like, what kinds of things can you do to make students feel more at ease of being on campus? And it's going to be different, right? For whether it's the little kids at, at Northwest Military, or if it's like the middle schoolers or the high schoolers at the Bandera campus. I don't know, Justin, you want to take that first, and then Ruben, you can chime in.
Yeah, so that's basically been what our we've already started our PD. Our PD is all about the brain and what our brain craves. And what our brain craves is connection before content, right? And so it's about really coming in and making sure that students belong. And we can create that connection inside of content. And that's one of the things that we're going to be asking our facilitators to do, is to be intentional about building connections, not only with them, but also with their peers, right? And then also, through everything else that we're doing. And so what we're really focused on is designing everything intentionally, with connection being a part of what we do. And you've heard me say it a couple of times, but our imperatives that we have, they're not values. They're not things that are put on a piece of paper. They're what we live our lives by, both in school and out of school, of, the belong, find joy, and be great. And one of the things I'm looking forward to is watching students find joy back into this, for lack of a better word, challenge, struggle of getting back into the swing of things in school. And so it's different for some of the kids that have never been on campus before compared to some that have been on campus and then off. But the biggest piece of what we're going to do to attack that starts on next Thursday. And even this, when we're talking about communication, even this has started causing a little bit of confusion inside of our parents. From 1 to 4, we have a student council led student orientation that will usually be open just for new students, but it's open for all of our students to come back, because some of our students haven't been on campus. So I have some freshmen, right, that never stood, or some sophomores that never stepped foot on campus as a freshman. So they're entering their high school year as a sophomore, having never been on campus at all. What does that look like, feel like, sound like for them? So they're going to come in, going to explore that piece. And then we follow that up Thursday night from 5 o'clock, letting our new parents, new families meet our facilitators. And then at 6, opening it up for all families to come in from 6 to 8 to meet the facilitators. And then, Ruben, you want to talk a little bit about what we're going to do next Thursday over at Northwest Military?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we know parents are eager, right? Kiddos are eager. They want to come see their space. They want to know what it feels like to be in their classroom and to meet their teacher. We're going to also open up and be ready to receive parents beginning Thursday of next week for all our parents who are currently enrolling at Northwest Military, for them to come down. We'll be open during regular work hours from 8 to 5. We're going to extend that just a little bit to allow for parents to come on in. Everybody's invited, right? Bring the whole family, and we'll have you come on into the classroom, meet the teacher, set up school supplies, and just kind of make kids feel a little bit more welcomed in their space before the big first day. A little bit to touch on and piggyback on what Justin said. In all the years that I've been in education, I can't think of another year where an entire school, an entire campus would spend a large majority of the first 2 days of professional development focusing on, and I'm literally looking at the posters, the mind maps up on the wall. And some of the key themes are affirmation and social connection, right? And safety in the classroom, and feeling and having kids feel safe with their peers in the classroom, and really focusing on their well-being within instruction, right? So just kind of the mental focus, the time and space that's being allowed for our facilitators to really hone in on that and really kind of absorb that, right? And authentically, so they can use those skills in every single day of instruction, 180 days of instruction, and not forget about it, and not drift away from it in month 2 and 3 just because it was the beginning of the year PD, right? So these are ingrained in our facilitators and revisited and focused on during grade level meetings and during administrative meetings. I mean, this is what we talk about, right? So I think that's really important to drive home with our parents, is that it is top of mind how our kids are interacting in our classrooms, and then their social emotional well-being and how they're reacting to that learning, how they're reacting to their peers within the instructional design. That's big in our professional development.
Yeah, no, I think that's so important that right. So like Anne Frank Inspire Academy is very conscious about creating that classroom environment so it works a certain way. The facilitators are creating that environment, and then so that the students can do what they're supposed to do, right? Which is ask lots of questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, what since you're, the Northwest Military Campus is going to have so many young students, can you think of like a sort of social emotional learning type thing, or like this like connections and affirmations like that would apply specifically to that young age group?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost is just making sure their facilitators are sensitive to that. So like periodic check-ins throughout the day are really important in the classroom to get that sense of where kids are, both up here and in here, like on a daily basis. I think that's really important. Our facilitators take note of that. And then not only that, they're conscious of it and they're purposeful of it at moving forward in their instructional day. Okay. Having kids move and having kids in collaborative circles in activities that involve, movement and engagement are super important. So we've built that in our day for kids to have that time and space, not only to move outside and inside, but to work collaboratively to achieve a particular goal, right? I think that's really big, builds team, builds character, builds that family unit inside the classroom. We'll have those opportunities built into our day as well. We'll talk a little bit about the JCC and the campus and all the resources.
Okay. Yeah, no, go ahead. Actually, I think this is a good segue to that. so I'm gonna pop that. I'm gonna pop the address up so folks can grab that.
About that, because most parents don't really connect, right, and don't really see that. And then once they arrive at our campus and we give them the campus tour, man, they really get a sense of what the JCC has to offer for K at Northwest Military. So we're talking, look, students need to move, students need constant brain breaks, students need that flexibility, right? And our outdoor spaces are really amazing at the JCC. So we're talking about, a kid's dream as far as playscapes and playgrounds, right? Climbing towers, really unique feature, a climbing wall for K through second. Also, really nice covered outdoor space that we're going to utilize for lessons and for an outdoor classroom. A nature walk trail, super unique, right? How many elementary schools have a nature walk trail that goes around their campus? Also, physical education is just so dear to my heart, right? We there at the JCC, we'll have like an actual double wide, not NBA size gym, but it's a really nice double sized indoor basketball court that we're going to utilize for physical education. It allows for tons of space for kids to do really amazing activities in there. So yeah, the JCC provides tons of resources for our families and for our kiddos, and we're going to utilize all the spaces. We have an outdoor recreational soccer field that we'll also be utilizing throughout the year. I can picture in my head just the most amazing field day, right? Towards the end of the year out there. So yeah, we'll take full advantage. Our parents have been pleasantly surprised with the amount of outdoor space. We've actually got 3 gardening beds that we're going to really bring back to life. And we're really looking forward to getting in there and getting our hands dirty as well. The more I think about it and the more I just kind of walk through my campus tour, there's just so many different spaces that we're going to utilize there. It's really kind of in the planning phase, right? Because every time I think of a different space at the JCC, I think to myself, our facilitators are going to love to use that as well. And as we go throughout the year, we'll definitely keep those spaces in mind.
Yeah, I think what Dr. Carrillo is really highlighting is that we believe learning takes place in multiple different places, right? That there's no place for learning not to take place. And then to answer that other question or that you had earlier, as far as like how do we make sure that students are connected even at a young age, I think one of the things that we've seen is there's been a lack of patterns. There's been a lack of consistency inside of kids' lives, right? And so one of the things of getting up every day and going to school and knowing what to expect and knowing what that routine is, right, is very comforting, especially to young people and their brain development, right? And so getting in, and even though we're going to be moving, those movements are going to be expected and predicted by students, and then we'll be able to go ahead and meet that need as well.
Yeah, having consistency. Yeah, I know. When my kids were doing distance learning, I had to kind of create that structure for us, and so it was sort of arbitrary. Like this day of the week we do this. It was all sort of made up, but it does create comfort and having things to look forward to. I think for a lot of kids, I believe in flexibility, and I know there are families who really need distance learning, and I wish our state were offering those families more flexibility. But I do know that for most kids, they learn more effectively on campus in the same room with their facilitator or teacher. And so, I'm optimistic that it'll be a really productive year for the students at both Anne Frank campuses.
Yeah, and going back to your original question at the very, very beginning, when you talked about like working with schools, right? People looked at us kind of crazy when we offered the amount of flexibility, but there was a reason why we could. And that's because not only do we believe, but we know that the brain gets into patterns, right? And so we knew that by offering that flexibility, that families would get into patterns unless something came up. And so after probably the fourth week, we didn't even send out a survey asking our families whether or not they were coming or not coming, because people were in a pattern and we knew what to expect. And so it's not just like wishing, right? Like it's what happens. People will get into patterns. You will be able to predict what their behavior is going to be, because that's just human nature.
If you give people freedom, it doesn't necessarily create chaos. Like they just find their happy medium. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I have a few more questions for Ruben specifically about the Northwest Military Campus, and like that, this is a new opportunity. So I guess, so what are ways, actually, I'm going to ask both of y'all, but I'll start with Ruben. Like, so if families are interested in the Northwest Military Campus, like what should they do, like to get more information? Or like you mentioned next Thursday that there's, for new families they can visit.
Yeah, absolutely. So we encourage anybody who's interested in Anne Frank, both Bandera and Northwest Military, really, for y'all to jump on annefrankia.com and submit an inquiry form, choosing your grade level, choosing the campus. And then that will kind of start the process. That'll kick in, and within 24 to 48 hours, we'll reach out to that family, to that parent, and schedule the campus tour. We absolutely welcome y'all to come in and see. We think that's the best approach, quite honestly, when we can sit down and have an honest conversation. The best relationship is always the one where we're aligned, right? Where the relationship is nice and honest, and what parents are looking for their kiddos lines up with what Anne Frank is going to offer throughout the school year. We're very honest and upfront about that. And that's one of the first things that I tell all our folks that come in to look at the campus is, this is what we're about. I'm going to give you tons of information, probably an overload. But we want them to have all the information that they need to make an intelligent, responsible decision for their kiddos. So go on annefrankia.com, submit an inquiry form, and then we'll reach out to you and schedule a campus tour for you to come in. Like I mentioned, if you're currently in the enrollment process and you've reached out to us, we're opening up our doors next week, Thursday and Friday. We will do that as well for parents to come on in to meet our facilitators and our instructional aide, walk the campus one more time. Most of them have, and we'll walk the campus one more time just to kind of get the feel and the sense of what our first day will look like. Our first day will be amazing for all our kiddos. I'm really excited about it. So we're really looking forward to August 16th. Please get on our website, call us. We're more than welcome to answer any questions that you may have. 210-638-5200, 5200 is our direct line there at Northwest Military. Please give us a call and ask us any questions. We can help you out with the inquiry form or the enrollment process if you need.
Okay, it's like, how fast can I type? There's that phone number again.
Yeah, that's very impressive. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, see, I'm gonna put all of y'all on screen. Let's see, and then just Justin, if there's like nuts and bolts information, the call to action, like I think this has been, maybe families, if they're new to hearing about Anne Frank, just to realize that there's a school that has a really different way of looking at education, encourages kids to ask lots of questions. If that's what they're looking for, then right, the Bandera campus is K through 12. Northwest Military is K through 2nd, but it's going to keep growing. So what's your advice for families? Like, again, like go to the website, ask for a tour.
Yeah, so I've played nice up until this point because I do believe we're all connected through school choice, right? But ultimately, we wouldn't be doing what we were doing if we felt like there were better ways to do things. And so the call to action is come see what we're about. Come talk to us. Come sit down. And I wish, and I know people say things and people are like, oh yeah, well of course they have to say it. And I think what Ruben was referring to is I'm going to shoot you straight. If we're not good at what we're doing, I'm going to look at you and I'm going to tell you that we're not good at what we're doing. And I will tell you that I have not ever worked with a group of professionals that have been so engaged in the first 2 days of PD. We tried to cut it short today at 2:15, 2:30 and kind of start wrapping things up, and they went even further into it. And so the caliber of individuals that we have that are going to be in front of our young people, the talent that they have, the potential that they have, is amazing. And so go to annfrankIA.com, fill out an inquiry. We have a couple of spots at the middle school, and I'll be honest with you, we're at our cap, but we're taking a couple of more because we just don't know who's going to show up, right? Like and that's the trouble or the struggle, right? Of who's actually going to walk in the door. But our school right now, we are full at the Bandera campus, and so if you are K through 2, Ruben's going to be the one to call you. He's going to be the one to say, hey, we're full at Bandera, but come on over and see what we're doing, because we're going to be doing the same thing. And that call to action is check us out. We may be full right now, but I promise you, you're only going to hear about students doing amazing things. You're only going to hear about an amazing staff. And I can't wait to see what everybody accomplishes this year.
Yeah. Well, Justin, what you said about it sounds like the PD is like very high energy. It's a great group of facilitators, but, I'm not surprised because if, this belief in choice and flexibility, I mean, y'all respect that when it comes to parents choosing what school they enroll in. You respect it when it comes to parents and the school communicating. And I'm sure that dialogue is happening, between the facilitators and the school leaders as well. And it's part of this whole philosophy. And I hope that parents are, this is piquing their interest, and they'll, visit the website and set up a tour and come and learn more.
Yeah, 100%. And the biggest thing is, right, empower your kid to learn wherever they are. And if you ever feel like your kid's not enjoying what they're learning, then it is your responsibility as a parent to have a conversation with the school. It's your responsibility as a parent to hold us accountable if we're not getting you what you need, right? But at the same time, don't ask anybody to change that vision or mission because we can't meet all the needs, right? But we can turn around and do what we do well.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Okay, well, this is Anne Frank Inspire Academy, and this is a good snapshot of how y'all are approaching back to school. And I just want to encourage everybody to keep coming back on Tuesdays this month, because we're going to have just a whole range of different schools, many different philosophies, but that's what's beautiful about school choice, is that there's lots of choices out there, and every family can find something that's going to work for each kid. Sometimes it's not even the same school for all the kids in a family. Do what's right for each kid. And that's because that's what's going to set them up best for the future.
Right. Sounds good. Well, we appreciate you, Inga, and we appreciate the time and dedication that you've put forth through all of this, right? Because this would have been a very easy time for you to get internal and focused on your family and so what y'all do on a daily basis of making sure that the conversation stays alive is extremely important. So I say this probably not only just for Anne Frank, but for all of the charter schools. Thank you very much for keeping this conversation going.
I appreciate it. Okay. Well, it's been great talking to you. I look forward I want to visit each of your campuses this coming school year. I'm really excited about what's going on.
Yeah, come on. We're waiting. I can get you out here to do this one live. And so y'all start pushing Inga to start doing these live. So get out there on the campus. Ready for you.
We're working on it. Okay. All right. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay.